if you don't get it, then get the out of Philly.
Castellanos, high fly ball, way back.
In from this side, who else? That baby Chubb.
Here's McConnell, can he get it off? Yes! Fumbles the football and the Eagles have it.
Jared McKinney making it rain.
Wayne Simmons wins it for Philadelphia.
Long drive. This game is over.
All right, we are back here today with another episode of Philly Talk. Going to be a short one. First off, well, it's New Year's Eve, so happy New Year's. You know, it'll be New Year's by the next time we do another Philly Talk episode. Coming up on the end of the NFL season. So this one's, like I said, gonna be a bit of a short one because we're getting to that point where all it is about playoffs. A lot of these games, you know, for some teams they matter, but right now, especially because of seeding and where they're locked into, they don't really matter too much to the Eagles right now. We clinched the NFC East, which is a big one. Getting ahead of myself though, but that's the big one. But first, you know, let's just get right into it. Like I said, probably gonna be a short one, but Eagles versus the Cowboys at home, dominant win. Nothing much more to say other than a dominant win. Gotta give credit where credit is due. I talked down on him a lot, but you know, this game, Kenny Pickett really looked like he was well adjusted to the offense this time around. And I think that's kind of a big factor is, you know, with Jalen going down so suddenly, you have to like throw him in there. But at the same time, you know, it's a thing of like, that's what you need to be prepared for. But also I can understand that like practice is much different than a real game setting, you know, but you know, Kenny bounces back this week. He just looks so well adjusted to the offense, like I said. And then when he had to go out for a bit and Tanner McKee came in, he also was just well adjusted. Kenny, I think, played through some broken ribs, so got to give him credit for that as well. Both men come together, help the Eagles pull off that dominant win against the Cowboys, lock up the NFC East, like I said, champions of the East once again. And, you know, got to feel good for Kenny, you know, seeing that. I think he grew up an Eagles fan, I think is what they said. But also got to shout out Tanner McKee, who, you know, went out there and did well enough, you know, 2 touchdowns and, you know, pretty good completion rate that, you know, my dad was telling me that they might look into just sitting Kenny all together for that Giants game and letting him just go out for that entire game, which, hey, he looked good. And, you know, like I said, a lot of people were high on him from what they saw in his preseason games, feeling that he should have gotten a better shot, you know, over Kenny. But hey, it's good to have, you know, a third string guy be able to be that well adjusted to the offense. It was fun seeing AJ having to, you know, really, he didn't really have to work because the fan, you know, shout out to that fan who, you know, knew what it meant to Tanner. But, you know, AJ having to go through all that effort to get the ball back because he threw it in, forgetting that, oh wait, that's his first touchdown ball. They were able to get it back. AJ was real cool, signed his game-worn Kelly Green jersey, which, I mean, yeah, you'll take that over a football, you know, is being able to get a signed Kelly Green, game-worn as well. Awesome stuff there. You know, speaking of our receivers, Smithy popped off 2 touchdowns on the day, I believe. Yeah, 2 touchdowns on the day, yeah. Had a pretty good game. AJ had a touchdown as well. Grant Calcaterra had that insane catch, was pretty crazy. Saquon, just inching towards that record. I think he needs just like 100 yards or something like that. They should let him go for it in the first half, I believe. I know you don't want to risk any injuries, but like, man, to see him break that record. And I think I touched on the last episode, but I gotta say it here. I've been seeing so many people being like, oh, he needed an extra game to do it. It shouldn't count. You know, Eric Dickerson will always have that record, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, guess what? Eric Dickerson has the 16-game record just the same way as O.J. Simpson has the 14-game record, the same way Jim Brown has, the 12-game record. That's the game of football. They're going to continue adding games. Now, they shouldn't go too crazy and add a ton more games because, I mean, these guys' bodies already go through enough as it is. You don't want to be adding more to it just for the sake of profit. But when does that ever stop the NFL? But, you know, so it's just like I find that argument to be very dumb to hold against Saquon. You know, is all he needed an extra game, especially when he has like I forget how many less carries than Dickerson had in that 30, game season, or 30. What am I saying? I think I confused it with the fact that he has, I think it's 30 less rushes. What I mean is 16 game season, and also it's like the game evolves and changes. It was a lot easier, or not easier, but like they ran the ball a lot more in their time versus now. It's like you see run heavy teams nowadays, but like not to that extent, and you don't really see teams run a running back down like that. Like there's so many running back by committee nowadays, or there's so much like, well, we're gonna have 2 running backs and one of them is gonna be used specifically on this down and this down. So it's like there's a lot that goes into it, so I just find that this whole thing about trying to discredit people was kind of dumb, especially because to me at least, maybe it could just be that I'm not old enough to like see it, or I'm not in online spaces enough to see it. But the one thing I have personally always enjoyed about football and being a football fan, and it's the one thing I've always held over all the other sports, is that from my interactions with various people, whether it's my own family, my friends, and again occasionally people on, I don't really like interacting much on the online space, too much toxicity. But the one thing I've always enjoyed, for the most part, at least from, again, my experiences, is that we are the one fan base that doesn't do all those narratives. And like I feel like it's happening more recently because football is somehow getting even bigger than it was before, and more people are getting into it. And so it's like all these people from other sports are sort of leaking in. Again, this is just from my personal experience, but I just feel like we've always been the sports fan base that has never done a lot of that discrediting. Like whenever I've looked at football, it's like people have such a genuine respect for the guys that came ahead, and even the modern guys, it's like they're willing to recognize the greatness of past and present. And that's something that I've never seen from a lot of other sports fan bases. It's like, look at the NBA. It's constantly trying to discredit older talent. Older guys are trying to discredit the younger guys, same thing in baseball a lot of the times. And, I don't doubt that it doesn't happen with football, especially when you start getting into quarterback discussions. Oh man, does it get pretty crazy. People debating, like right now people are trying to debate about, if Lamar gets another MVP. Was it the MVP? Sorry, it was either MVP or Super Bowl. They were trying to say like where in I think someone even said, as far as like, does Lamar slot into top 5 quarterbacks of all time? And like the discussions were getting pretty crazy. I have no doubt it was just because it was Lamar, but like the discussions do get pretty creative. But what I'm trying to say is, there's always a genuine respect. Like I never see someone trying to discredit quarterbacks of old, except some people that try and be contrarian, but it's like no one tries to downplay Jerry Rice, at least from what I've seen. No one tries to downplay Dan Marino. It's like there's a genuine respect, and so that's why it kind of disappoints me a bit that Eric Dickerson and a lot of the fans want to try and discredit Saquon with this whole extra game narrative. It's like the game evolves, situations are always going to be different, so I think it's dumb to try and kind of keep putting asterisks on things, like, oh well, there's an asterisk because he has an extra game. And it's like, how many records can we do that throughout all the years? Like I mentioned with OJ and Dickerson and Jim Brown. Like I said, I believe it's Jim Brown who had like the 12 game record. And it's like, imagine if you just started doing that with all these other things, like the receivers who now have an extra game, the quarterbacks who have an extra game, the defenses. It's pointless discussions. I just wish people would put more of an end to it. I don't want them to start engaging in all these stuff, but that's just me personally. I want us to remain what what the fan base of the NFL, has always been. And again, maybe it's just me. Maybe I don't engage enough online, but maybe that's also a good thing that I don't, because then I don't have to see such negativity, when it's like we should just appreciate the game overall. That's my thing, is just enjoy football, enjoy a lot of the players. That's kind of how I've grown. When you see those things where it's like, who's a player you hate? There's not really any players I hate at this point. I just watch my own team, respect a lot of the guys who go out there. Because at the end of the day, it's kind of like I said in the wrestling video. At the end of the day, man, these guys are putting their bodies on the line each game that they go out there. They never know when their career might end. So it's like I just would rather enjoy the game I'm watching and show appreciation than just get stuck arguing in these pointless narrative-based discussions. That's just me though. Getting back to the Eagles-Cowboys game, of course, because that was a huge tangent to just go on. Chauncey, 2 picks, took one to the crib, especially to start the game off. That was great. We are locked into the 2 seed, I believe. I believe so, because even if they tie, I think the Vikings still get number 1. So we got locked into the 2 seed. That's what losing to Washington ends up doing. Really sucks, but can't really do much. So we're gonna have to play wild card weekend. We'll have a home game for that though. 2 potential matchups. It's between the Commanders and the Packers right now. 2 formidable teams, all with their own sort of pros and cons as to why you want to face off against them. I think this team can win against either team. They beat both teams this year, Obviously, they lost one to the Commanders, but they beat the Commanders. They beat the Packers, to start off the season. That's the big thing, is like it was to start the season. These 2 teams look drastically different than when they faced off at the start of the season. So, I don't know. Each matchup's, like I said, formidable, interesting, But I think the Eagles can do it, against either of those teams. Coming to playoff time, it's going to be real interesting, man. It's tough, man. It's tough. I believe in this team, but I'm just so used to the years of being hurt, It's like I don't. It's not that I don't have confidence. It's just, man, it's tough. It's tough to get invested, but at the same time, I think I always feel differently with the Eagles, like especially compared to the Phillies. You guys see me a lot of times more like cautiously optimistic, where it's like, I think throughout the years, and I think my dad can agree with this, we've always been more confident in the Eagles to be able to make runs than any of the other sports franchises. Like the only time we weren't confident was last year, because you guys keep hearing me repeat it. It's like we basically knew that we weren't doing anything like by halfway point, but it's like, despite that, it's like, I think to all the previous years, and it's like, it's never been this like, oh man, they're gonna lose. It's like we've always had this, like, other than and then even 2021 was kind of different, because it was like year 1 of Jalen Hurts as a full-time starter. Smithy was a rookie, I believe. I think, yeah, that was the year that they had Smithy as a rookie. They were like a wild card team going against the Bucs. So it's like, I didn't expect anything too crazy there. I just expected them to put up a good fight. But, I think back to some of the other years, like especially that Super Bowl run, even without wins, my dad and I were still very much confident. We were like, they could do this. They've proven they can do this. So, I'm very much confident. I think they could do it against any team. This is one of their best shots. This might be even a better shot than 2022, I think, at least in my mind. 2022, they should have won it, but the defense, really crumbled in that second half. But I don't know. It's very similar vibes to 2022, where I believe they can do it. There isn't much that's making me want to be like cautiously optimistic. There isn't many glaring issues other than just, the fact that sometimes the defense can be iffy, like the defense kind of in these last couple of games hasn't been the best. Obviously, they did really good here against the Cowboys, but like, I don't know. I can't, like, I'm thinking to myself, and like, I just think like this is their best shot. And I think someone else said a similar thing, like on TikTok, where it's like the Eagles they're the number 1 team that is like, this is their best shot because of like all the circumstances surrounding the NFC right now. Like the Bills obviously are another one where it's like, hey, the Chiefs haven't looked that great. So like if there was ever a year for the Bills to really capitalize, it's like this year. And like similarly with the Eagles in the NFC, it's like there's so much that is making this a year for them to fully capitalize, from Detroit having all the injuries to, you know, other teams having such injuries, your team really coming together. Like that's another thing, is this team really coming together. Like the offense has started, you know, just firing on all cylinders. The defense has been really coming together this season. It's like everything's sort of adding up well to the point where it's like you kind of like you believe, and you just are like, this has to be like this is one of your best shots you're gonna get, you know, like that it's not like this has to be the year necessarily, but like this is, it's just that mindset of like, this is one of your best shots you're gonna get, you know, like this is like 2022 was one of their best shots, but only because of the fact, or it wasn't necessarily their best shot, but you had the mindset of like, it's do or die, because you have so many people coming up as free agents that, you know, it's going to be very difficult to sort of have this same team, have this same success, knowing that, you know, because you've made it this far, a lot of those guys are going to get big money offers, and, you know, you're not going to be able to re-sign everyone. And so like similarly here, you think it's their best shot because of just the circumstances surrounding it. You know, it's like the offense is young, they have a lot of guys locked in, this defense is starting to get younger, you know, and but like I think that's the reason why it's like, yeah, you believe this defense is young and the offense is young, and you know they can keep this level of production for years. But like I think the thing is the fact that these young guys are playing as good as they are this soon, you know, it's like obviously you expect them to get better, but it's like I think that's what contributes. Like I said, there's so many circumstances, and I think that's another circumstance that contributes to it, is the fact that like these guys are playing well above the expectations that you had for them. You know, like you drafted Quinyon Mitchell in the first round and Cooper DeJean in the second. I don't think anyone's expectations was for them to be playing this good, you know, like this good from the start, from the jump, the moment they got playing time, you know. So there's like so much contributed, so it's like I have confidence that they can make a run. And that's why I said, you know, I think whether it's the Packers or the Commanders, I believe they can come out with a win, and then after that it just all depends on who they're matching up against. There's a lot of interesting teams, you know, and I like the Commanders are who I would say might be, you know, the biggest threat for the Eagles, just because Jaden Daniels has been so good. And like that's the big thing. Like you look, and again, it's not to try and discredit those teams, but like you look at some of the other teams, like we keep saying, you know, Jared Goff can have one of those days like he did that one game with like 5 turnovers, you know, and like if the right team can capitalize on it, you know, you can beat the Lions there. And also again, their injuries, Jordan Love, you know, and the Packers, it's a bit tough, you know. It's not to say that Jordan Love isn't a good quarterback, but I don't know. I think I'm more confident in the Eagles there. Stafford and the Rams, you know, again, another formidable team, but I think they could easily get out of that, you know, with a win. Obviously, the big X factor there is Puka Nacua, as we saw in the game that we played against them. You know, like they really struggled covering Puka, so like that would be the big one. The Vikings are obviously like one of the biggest challenges, because like you got Jay Jettis to worry about, and then you know, all the other receivers who, you know, are able to get so open when you're putting your focus on a receiver like Jay Jettis, you know. So there's a lot of difficult matchups, but that's what's going to make the playoffs fun this year, is that there's so many interesting teams. And then I don't know, this may be a bit disrespectful to a lot of those teams in the AFC, but like I'm very much feeling the way I'm very much feeling about the NFL playoffs this year the way I was feeling about the MLB playoffs, and that is the NFC, or you know, the National League over in the MLB, is the gauntlet. It is the gauntlet of everyone fighting, and whoever comes out on top of the playoffs on that side of the bracket is who I probably see as winning it all. Because the only one at the AFC side that I'm looking at, and I'm like, I know it's wrong to doubt the Chiefs and Mahomes right now, but I don't know, just the way they've played this entire season, you can't count them out. But I don't know, I don't know how they would match up, you know, with such, I don't know, it feels wrong to discredit them, but like I just can't picture them at least right now, I mean, the Chiefs always turn it up come playoff time, but like, I think about like if they have to face this Eagles team or the Lions team, even with all their injuries, or the Vikings or the Rams, even, you know, or even like a team like I don't know, like those, like I just don't see it. You know, like the only one that I'm seeing from the AFC that I personally feel like is like big threat, you know, on the level of a lot of these NFC teams right now is the Bills. You know, and even then, the Bills are kind of a similar situation to the Eagles defense, where it's like you just have this cast of names that is, you know, being elevated by Josh Allen, that's elevating their game at the right time, you know. But even then, it's like, I don't know, like the Bills are the only team I'm looking at, like that's going to be the toughest matchup for any NFC team come Super Bowl. And like, but I still like that's the opinion I want to hold like strongly, is that just like the MLB, I think a team from the NFC is probably winning it this year. That's just the way I feel. Again, I don't want to fully count out any teams from the AFC, and I'm not in any way saying that they're bad, but it just very much feels like that, the way the NL and the MLB felt this year, where it was like it was a bloodbath to get to the World Series, and whoever got out of there, you just felt so confident that they were gonna be the World Series winner. And look what happened. It ended up, you know, being the Dodgers, which, you know, like I said, I was just more confident in the NL teams than the AL teams, and I feel the same way here with the NFC. But overall, that's just how I feel. Got the Giants. Hope Saquon can break that record fairly soon. How about we first quarter somehow get pinned on the 1 yard line, we run the ball with Saquon and he gets a 99-yard touchdown, comes in the next drive, gets like a, what is it, like a 5-yard rush just to make things, you know, solid, and then we just pull all the starters. You know, Tanner McKee will probably play that game. We'll probably pull a lot of the starters from that game. They pulled Lane pretty quickly from this game. I remember seeing that. So I don't expect a lot of the starters to play. They'll probably play a lot of their bench guys, special team guys. They just, you know, hope Saquon can break the record. That's going to be the big highlight from that Giants game. And then win or lose, you know, like I said, I think we're just locked into that 2 spot, and just from there, come playoff time, just a lot to think about. And that's what we'll kind of get more into, because next week things will be solidified. The playoff bracket will be solidified, and from there we'll look at the whole entire bracket of things. But overall, thank you all for joining me this one. Like I said, Happy New Year's to you all. Either those of you who are already into the new year because of time zones, or those that will be experiencing it later today. Just wish you all a good year. Hope you all are blessed in the new year. Hope you all just have a fun time. Just hoping everyone has a good year. And I look forward to next week, where hopefully, I mean, it all comes up to his decision, like they've been saying at the end, but hopefully next week when we come here to talk in the new year, we'll be talking about the new rushing leader, Saquon Barkley.